But on December 27, 1999, the high-profile couple drew some unwanted attention. When authorities caught up with the vehicle, Puffy and Jennifer were taken into custody. Lopez was later released without being charged.
He was larger than life, but at first I didn't like him at all.
You know, Jennifer, she's definitely a bad chick.
So for obvious reasons, Puff Daddy's dating life has come back into the spotlight amid his federal charges and investigations. Now, speaking of relationships, when it comes to celebrities and their ever-happening love lives, Jennifer Lopez is probably one of the most talked of in Hollywood for that subject. Now in her post-Ben Affleck 2.0 era, JLo has had her fair share of heartache, and recent events have brought the famed actress's troubled past back into the limelight. Puff Daddy and JLo apparently had a roller coaster of a relationship, and fans want to know the real reason why they broke up in 2001. Their relationship was kind of monumental at the turn of the century. It was turbulent, but hey, according to them, they wouldn't change a thing about how it all went about. For timeline purposes, folks, they dated from 1999 to 2001, and JLo claimed that Puffy was the first man to be unfaithful to her, but allegedly he is not an ex who manhandled her. Glad we got that out of the way. JLo decided to end it for good after wondering, do I want to be home in 10 years wondering where somebody is at 3 in the morning? So when Jennifer has previously opened up about the relationship and that specific timeline, she explained that the duo met just as she was entering stardom and preparing for the release of her debut album, which Puffy had helped to produce. They became an official couple after being together on the set of her If You Had My Love music video. Talking to CBS in 2019, JLo said he became kind of a mentor to her in that moment. They had that kind of crazy, tumultuous relationship that ended in a bang. Pun intended. Now, despite the hardships in the relationship, JLo recalled a lot of lessons that she learned from Puffy while they were together. She mentioned that he gave her so many cues, taught her so many things, and she mentioned this in an interview with Access Hollywood back in 2014. She'll always be grateful to him for that, and she loves that he can be so supportive of her so many years later, and there's still so much mutual respect, admiration, and love there. And you sure, that's all sweet, but the relationship did have its low peaks. The two were arrested in December of 1999 after them, Puffy's bodyguard Anthony Wolf Jones and rapper Jamal Shine Barrow got involved in an argument at Club New York that ended with the firing of weapons, at least according to Forbes. So Puffy, JLo, and Anthony left the club and were chased by the police. Authorities found a stolen weapon in the vehicle they were driving. And back in 2000, JLo mentioned to Elle magazine that this whole thing was a complete nightmare from beginning to end. She was scared in the car, she had absolutely no idea what was going on, no one did. Obviously, everybody was arrested on weapons and bribery charges. However, the charges against Jennifer were promptly dropped, and Puffy was acquitted in 2001. And while that was definitely a major low point of the relationship, you gotta remember there were some high points. Puffy was JLo's date to the 2000 Grammy Awards when she wore the iconic green Versace dress that is still referenced all these years later and is the reason why we have Google images. And when looking back at that moment that JLo wore that iconic Versace dress, Puffy told Entertainment Tonight in 2017, just wow. We were just stepping up our game as far as what we were wearing and how we were going to use fashion. I didn't know how big it was going to be, but it was a great moment for her. She deserved it. She is one of the, quote, flyest out there. So the Let's Get Loud hitmaker and the I'll Be Missing You rapper broke up in February of 2001 once rumors of his infidelity began to circulate. Now, Puffy's publicist said at the time that it was confirmed Puffy and his love, Jennifer Lopez, have in fact broken up. He wanted to put all the rumors surrounding their relationship to rest, and at that difficult time they asked that folks respect their privacy. And although Puffy didn't publicly comment on the speculation, other than that, JLo opened up about the relationship in the years that followed. In a 2001 interview with Rolling Stone, she mentioned that Puffy would often threaten to divorce her, despite the fact that they were not married. The direct quote is, "A lot. He told me many times I want a divorce." She explained that this threat would come up a lot, usually when they were struggling to find time to see each other due to their hectic schedules. Puffy would be like, "Oh, I'll be away so much." He's like, "Where do I send the papers?" And it's like, come on, dude. JLo mentioned, like, those two had very different ways of thinking. And while noting that he loves to go out, JLo said that she's more of a homebody, or she was at the time. And it looks like all that love of going out might have gone hand in hand with the infidelity. Speaking to Vibe magazine in 2003, JLo said she never caught him, but she just knew. He'd say he was going to the club for a couple of hours and then he'd never come back at night. She just found herself in this relationship where she was always crying, she felt crazy, she was going nuts. It just really put her in a tailspin. But still, the on-the-floor singer was very keen on keeping a lot of the other details about the relationship private. She's like, look, I want to keep something sacred, and like, I respect that girl. Now, after the breakup, JLo admitted that Puffy just exhausted her. And while addressing the 2 years that they spent together, she told Vanity Fair that it wasn't a great time in her life. It was scary. And they broke up many times before that, got back together, broke up again, nobody knew about it. It was emotionally exhausting. And she mentioned like, it's good that I was young. So back in 2014, JLo released her song Booty, and Puffy had all the high praises for the song and noted like the video was great. He said it's a work of art. He said it's something that will go down in history. She will never give up. She's a great friend of mine. That thing is just incredible. I am so lucky to have that great woman in my history. She's one of the greatest I've ever seen. Go girl. He mentioned that they were great as friends. He's great as a fan rather than a love interest. And when JLo heard about the praise, she responded that, hey, we spent 3 years of our lives together, you know, almost every single day, seeing him evolved in everything and all the things he's done as a businessman, and still being so true to his music and his art, trying to uplift his community in his own way. And it's the same thing that I try to do, and I feel like I learned a lot from him coming up watching him. So once again, mentioning a lot about learning cues from him. So how did all of this jargon come to light? So earlier this year, JLo opened up a lot about her former awful relationships in her tell-all documentary, The Greatest Love Story Never Told. So if we're talking about the history with Ben Affleck, she was talking about that, and obviously at the time, fate was like, no, you're not gonna reunite. Fast forward to 2021, they rekindled the romance, married in 2022. It was one of the biggest will they won't they stories for the longest time, and now we're back to the won't they, don't try that again. But, and here's the reason we're referencing this folks, JLo described being thrown around and manhandled by lovers. But she didn't disclose who. She mentioned there were people in her life who said I love you and then didn't do the things that were kind of in line with the word love. She did clarify by saying, I mean, I was never in a relationship where I got harmed, thank God, but I've definitely been manhandled and a couple of other unsavory things. Rough, disrespectful. And because I'm afraid of getting in trouble, once again, she did explicitly say it wasn't Puffy. But still, take that with a grain of salt. She hasn't made any kind of comment about Puffy's allegations. And it might be because, well, she's kind of busy with that whole divorce from Ben Affleck thing. So, by the way, back in 2021, when rumors were swirling that Ben and JLo were reuniting once again, Puffy posted a throwback photo with his ex. And he was called out for the timing, but he's like, oh no, it's nothing. He said, it wasn't no trolling involved, that's just my friend, and I don't have anything to say about her relationship or her life. Okay, well, it was a little suspicious. One of Puffy's longtime rivals claimed in their podcast, Collect Calls, that, by the way, the raid was actually a factor in Ben and JLo's divorce. He said, I'm quite sure the FBI probably called. It's a white man who got respect in the white world. I'm quite sure they said, we want to show you some things about your wife. He also had some comments about JLo's involvement in the 1999 event in the club, saying, and they know the fact that JLo lied and said the weapon was somebody else's or whatever, sent that man to prison, destroyed his life, and she knew it was Puffy. All the Puffy stuff really came to a head last fall when Puffy settled a lawsuit filed against him by his former partner and Me and You singer Cassie, Cassandra Ventura. The pair dated from 2007 to 2018, and Cassie's lawsuit accused Puffy of a lot of things. The music producer has denied any wrongdoing. The lawsuit was settled, but still, the recent allegations against Puffy have stirred up a lot of interest in his past relationships, his private life, and just a lot. By the way, he's the father of 7 offspring by 4 different women, and there's just so much to talk about there. Well, that's all folks, see you next time.